thank you very much for joining today. Welcome to our Iconic and Object Matrix webinar. Today, it's myself, Mark Haberfield, Global Sales Engineer here at Object Matrix, and Mike.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Sorry, I was on mute. Mike Zemlinski, Chief Commercial Officer over at iconik.
I'm going to hand over to Nick, who's our who's going to just give us a little introduction to Object Matrix.
That's good. Mark's forgotten who I am already. It's that's the pandemic for you. If you don't see people in person, they don't exist. Hi, I'm Nick, co-founder of Object Matrix, and I look after sales and marketing. I just want to give you a very quick introduction to the company, who we are and how we help. So we're a software company that is very much a strategic partner. We're not just a storage company that dumps you with a pile of tin and runs away, or a big bucket in the cloud. We're actually a team that enables our customers to self-serve content, collaborate on a global basis, and hopefully increase operational efficiency through enabling your staff to get on with tasks that benefit the business. A little bit of our history, if it comes up, a bit of a busy slide. We've been around since 2003. We put the world's first object storage into a creative workflow in 2006. And from 2009 on, we decided to focus on the M&E industry and only the M&E industry, sort of gaining customers like BT and the BBC in the UK, going to France, gaining traction there, kind of Latin America. And then in about 2017, we started pushing into the US. In 2019, we launched MatrixStore Cloud. And that obviously over the last 12 months has been gaining a huge amount of traction. So our product's called MatrixStore and it's object storage. There are three ways that you can deploy it. MatrixStore on-prem, still probably the vast majority of our customers are on-prem. Obviously historically fast, secure workflows tightly integrated into the solutions our customers have. MatrixStore Cloud, a very easy to use platform, no egress fees, media management included, and a lot of security built in. And also MatrixStore Hybrid, the benefit of both worlds, where we have a bit of on-prem cache feeding a cloud archive of your choice, whether that's MatrixStore or a third party. All of those platforms, whether they're on-prem or cloud, come with very, very high levels of security and what we call digital content governance. So where's my data? Who's touched it? Are there audits of everything that's happened? Which is really important when you've got people downloading things at home and you may not particularly know what's or where your assets are. It's got built-in smarts, and by that we mean the storage is capable of processing data where it lives. And one example of that is the ability to extract metadata from known formats. So Adobe XMP, AS11, AS10, IMF, and more, which means that even if your system that you use regularly to search for content isn't available, you'll still be able to find your content in MatrixStore, and that makes it a very future-proof platform. It's S3 compatible, of course, but you're not tied to the S3 protocol. And importantly, these days, it's super easy to use and administer with very intuitive interfaces. So it means that you can just upload, download content, know it's protected, and get on with what you need to do. As you can see from the diagram, you have the choice of deployments, on-prem, hybrid, replication, a mixture of everything. And that just makes sure that your data is where you need it to be based on automated policies. So there's very little management, which means that operational teams will become more efficient by not managing data, and creative teams can access content from anywhere, which hopefully means they'll become more productive. More importantly, in a cloud platform or on-prem platform, the data belongs to the customer, not us. So we don't store it in a proprietary way, and we make sure the metadata is also available on-prem and in the cloud should our customers need it. And that portability of content and metadata is more and more important. Even as we saw some outages yesterday from a large cloud provider, the ability to have your data in a different platform is super important. And that's, I believe, it from me, Mark.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll hand over to Mike now to tell us a little bit about iconik, please.
Thank you, Nick, and thanks, Mark. So yeah, iconik is a software as a service platform for media management. And what that fundamentally means is we have one big piece of software living in the cloud that can help you manage your media, manage storage across a variety of different locations, from cloud storage to on-prem storage, use AI to tag that content, use AI to transcribe that content for voice to text, be able to share content that lives on your private storage with external stakeholders for either delivery or collaboration. And then the ability to search across all of that different storage to find the things that you may want, and not just copying and moving things around, but finding it once it is copied and moved a bunch of different places. And then finally, a full review and approve toolkit, in addition to our standard collaboration tools, is built into iconik. So with that said, the big thing we kind of want to talk about today and how we've partnered with Object Matrix is that iconik is a hybrid solution. Hybrid cloud is a buzzword you may hear. I feel like we coined it because we've been around long enough now that we've been doing this. But the gist of it is that the brains of iconik live in the cloud itself, but the actual high-res media can live wherever it makes sense for it to live. And that is globally, and that is on-prem, and that is in the cloud. So we keep the proxies in the cloud so that they are visible to everyone everywhere, but the actual data can live on-prem on a MatrixStore, or it can live in Object Matrix Cloud, or it could live in a variety of other storages as well, and mix and match and copy and move things to and from any of those storages. So we've got quite a bit of third-party integration as well, not just on the storage side, but also on the AI side of things and on transcodes. So we can use a variety of different transcoders in a variety of different places, in addition to our provided transcoder, to help generate proxies. And then we have AI providers that we've partnered with, currently Amazon, Google, and Rev, to handle some of that object recognition and transcription, as some of the other boxes you see over there. So yeah, we can hop on from there.
But obviously, MatrixStore can be the deployment under iconik in several scenarios. Typical scenario with our on-prem customers is they pop an iconik storage gateway right next to the storage in-house. That connects via our MXFS MatrixStore file system for very, very fast access to the on-prem storage that allows iconik to create the proxies and do the iconik ingest, transcode, etc. On the other side of things, we've got our MatrixStore Cloud customers. They're just using our S3 interface. The beauty of that is all of our interfaces are completely cross-compatible. So if they're connected with their iconik to the S3 interface, they can be ingested directly to MatrixStore using Vision or a multitude of options. And then they are scanned by iconik, and iconik can also use us as the archive at the end of the process. And then lastly, just say those iconik storage gateways can also work against any storage. So, the remote workers might have a little NAS on their desktop working away, and they're, again, working to iconik, the storage being anywhere, and backing up to MatrixStore Cloud as needed. So that's it for the slides. We don't want to bore you with slides, so we're going to go straight into the demo side of things and tell you a bit more about Object Matrix. Now, we claimed it's very easy to use, very intuitive, and that is exactly what we're here to do. This is me logging on to MatrixStore Cloud. I've got a space. My space is called POC, Proof of Concept, and in there I can administer my vaults, my users, and I can see a full suite of audits. Now, we say the word vault quite regularly, but what does vault mean? Vault is a bucket, a workspace, and it's something we create, and we decide the gravity of the media or the data that's going into it. So you can decide how important this data is to you. I like to switch on all the audited operations. I like to see who's reading, writing, and deleting, because that's quite important to me. I also like to switch on all of the process in place. I like to see as much metadata as possible. And because MatrixStore can extract that metadata, the camera info, the XMP, anything image, AS11, AS10, I like to see it wherever possible and use it in my system. At this point, I can also decide how important is the data to me. Do I want 2 copies? Dual copy important to a lot of people. Equally, I might make that single because I know it's also in a hybrid vault, a third-party cloud, or it might just be in my replication vault, replicating to another MatrixStore logically in a different location. I can decide the integrity level of it, so the checksums that I'm doing, Adler 32 or a strong MD5 on every read and write operation. And I can also decide how much compliance I want to apply to it, whether I want to lock the vault for a time period effectively. Any data that goes into this vault, if I set it as 90 days, would sit there for 90 days. It couldn't be deleted. It couldn't be changed. It's going to be locked until that time period expires. I could set that to extendable and reducible in that I can also reduce it. But if I do that and I reduce it, I've got to wait 24 hours for all the assets to expire, and then I can start deleting. It's, you know, something that's really, really useful to a lot of our customers and quite often gets used in media workflows. You can also see the trash cans as well. The ability to have a trash can on the storage, you decide how long it sits in the trash can. You can decide whether you get it back or, you know, what's important to you from the data. And as you can see, that's it. It's as simple as that to set up a vault. I've just got to give someone the administration of it, and I've got to give a few users the ability to log into it, and away we go. I've got a full suite of ACLs, so I could decide that my iconik user, for example, he's a vault admin and a read-write user, and he is straight onto the system, simply as pressing a few buttons. Now, the audits are important, and the ability to see exactly what's happening within our cluster, who's reading, writing, and most importantly, deleting, what machine they're using, what file, what username, all available and exportable. These have also been supplemented with some analytics as well. So we've now got the ability to see analytics of everything going on, not only at a cluster level, if we've got an on-prem, but also at a vault level. Where I can just see vaults, I can see applications, I can see what is actually happening in the background of my system. But how do we actually get into the MatrixStore? How do we actually see the data? Well, we've said it before and said again, there's lots of ways you can get data into MatrixStore. We can use our S3 interface, we can use on our on-prem, Samba, NFS, our MatrixStore file system, and remotely we can use various things, including fast file upload, where I've got the ability to use an off-the-shelf file acceleration tool, grab some videos right this minute, wrong button, set them running into my MatrixStore. We've also got Vision, and Vision is our front end into the MatrixStore. Vision is the ability to see the assets in your MatrixStore. Again, all of this is happening in my MatrixStore cloud, my proof of concept space, where I demo all of my details. And as my upload is going really fast in the background, you can see I've now got access to my data. So on the left, I've got my vaults that I've got access to. The one I just created, of course, straight there. The one where I've got data coming straight in as we speak, it's already come in. And this data, I could decide to move over to a vault that is matched up with Mike. I'm just going to copy that in so that Mike's got that to play with later. As you can see, data in the middle has all of that important metadata on the right-hand side. This hasn't been entered by us. This has been mostly extracted. Now, some of the video logging parts, yeah, they've been entered by me. I decided to go along and just put a few little notes on the timeline. Very, very useful and very, very handy to see these within the MatrixStore. I can obviously search all of these things. I can search all vaults, current folder, extracted metadata, logs, look in the trash, and even use a fuzzy search where if I make a spelling mistake, I can see my data. I can also play my videos, hopefully not too loud for everyone else, and I can flip between JKL support, time formats, speed, etc. And then make the decision whether I'm downloading the high res or the low res within the MatrixStore. Other features, just simple stuff, editing tags, editing metadata, copy and move, you saw me use, as well as adding attachments to assets as well. So you might want to add the QC file to the MatrixStore video. And equally, you can get links, whether they're local links or public expiring links, also to share straight out of the storage. Lastly, I've just got the ability to send to Deep Archive or receive from Deep Archive, and that's if we were tearing off to another storage, something that was even further colder than MatrixStore. So I think that's a general little run around on MatrixStore and our vision interface. And I'll hand over to Mike now to let you have a look at everything from the iconic side.
Thanks. All right, let me share out my screen here so we can see what's going on. So first and foremost, the first thing that I'm going to do actually is I've already connected inside of my iconic instance here to that MatrixStore. So we can see here's the object matrix webinar, and this is actually the bucket that I'm connected to that Mark was just working in. And if I hit scan on that, what Iconic's going to now do is go take a look at everything that was inside of that particular storage. It's going to go scan all of that in, start creating assets, start generating the low reses, checking all of that content directly into Iconic. And if I hop over to my jobs column here, we can see that there's a scan of that MatrixStore that is happening already. The process has started. And if I even go to search, we can see that some of the content from the Matrix Object Matrix webinar bucket is flowing into place. And we can see over on the side here, if I refresh this, there is a Object Matrix webinar collection and new data. This is actually the folder structure that exists on the MatrixStore itself. And so as this stuff is coming in, and we can see we've already got some proxies available here. So I'll go take a look at this clip, and right here within Iconic, I can see everything that's associated with it. I can scrub back and forth, JKNL. I can make time-based comments with range. So I can say, you know what, let's go here, mark an in and mark an out, and say, can we get the background in Iconic blue, question mark, right? And make time-based comments based on the output of that. Now, the other thing Iconic lets us do is I can see that this is in our Object Matrix webinar MatrixStore, but I can take that and transfer that to any storage anywhere in the world I'm looking at. So from all of those different storage types, Object Matrix included, I can move this anywhere I want, anywhere in the world. So I could say, hey, you know what? I want this to go to my office in Detroit, or my office in Stockholm, onto the NASs we have locally there, or I want it to go to a virtualized file space, or I want it to go right onto Mike's laptop. So I'll say, hey, transfer that to Mike's laptop. Since I have a storage gateway running on it, we can move that file around, and we can keep track of the same asset across multiple different storages as a single entity. So when you are starting to organize this stuff and data lives in multiple places, I can see all the places it lives. So now you can see, hey, this lives in the Object Matrix webinar cloud storage. It also lives in my ISG. And if I go right on to my Finder here and take a look, so I think I threw it right into the root of that. Whoops. Yep, there's the vision demo file. There's the file that was just transferred from MatrixStore. Locally, I'm available on my system. So moving things around is easy. Now, the other thing I can do is I can share this with realistically anybody I want for some degree of feedback. So I can go into my shares here, hit share, and say, you know what? I want everybody on the webinar today to be able to view this. I don't want you guys to be able to download it at all, but I want some feedback on it. And I'm going to put a password on it that's just OM right now. And if I copy that to my clipboard, hit finish, I'm going to throw that right in the chat. And now you guys that are watching the webinar, if you feel so inclined, can get in, watch that video, see the comments I've made on it, reply to those comments, or make your own comments. And again, I've never had to actually open up my storage infrastructure to anyone on this webinar. I made it available directly. So what I essentially am doing here is connecting. And if we go take a look inside of my storage side of things here as well and look at this, we can see that I am connected to that Iconic ingest bucket that we showed a little while ago, and I'm connected to the exact same endpoint that Mark was working on earlier here. And I can automatically set this to scan if I like. Right now I had it set to manual scan. I can scan subsections of that with subdirectories. So if I just wanted that new data folder to be scanned and not anything else in that bucket, I can do that. So a lot of options as to how we transcode, or as how we ingest from this storage. And again, the ability to move it around wherever we want. If we go back and take a look at that original one here, we'll take a see. And now you can see that Stephen has made a nice little comment at 5 seconds, 2 frames. And Richard says, hey, it worked and it was very fast at 18 seconds and 9 frames. So in the matter of what, 3 or 4 minutes, we were able to have our iconic bucket connected to Object Matrix, bring that content in, make comments with time-based ranges, share those out to the world at large, and copy it to third-party storage for production use, all with simple clicking right inside the user interface. Now, the other thing I can do if I want to, let's say this was a final output and I wanted to start a formal review and approve process. I can do that as well. I can say, hey, I want to request a formal review and approve. And in this case, I can send this to Mark. Well, I got to grab, is it just Mark at Object Matrix?
Yeah, that'll get to me.
Cool.
Oh,
and I can say, is this good for release? Is it com or co.uk?
.com, but you got a hyphen between Object Matrix. That'll get to me.
All right, so there we go. And I can choose if he can see metadata. So while I'm sharing this out, I'm actually going to go tag out some metadata here so you can see it as well. I'm going to say, you know what, this link's only good for the next 24 hours. And in this case, I want Mark to be able to download the high res if he wants to for some deeper looking into that approval process. He can also approve comments that were made on it. He can view transcriptions if those exist. We haven't made any transcriptions yet. And he can set the approval status. And again, I'll set a password on this as well. This time, what happens is a share link will go out to Mark, but this will start a formal review process. And now I can see all of the people that have been invited into review on this, and I can see the status of this, meaning I can go search my entire system for everything that has an open requested approval and maybe has the word vision in it. And we can see now that very quickly I got back to that world where I'm seeing all of the content that has open reviews, and I can use that as a searchable metric and an automatable metric in the system as well. Let's see here. Does this? Yeah, and this actually has human speech on it. So what I am going to do is run a transcription as well. So if I pop out my transcriptions tab here and say transcribe this, and I can say English global, because that was English that was being spoken. It's going to fire off a job to our AI engine. It's going to automatically generate a transcription of that, and it will automatically generate an SRT and WebVTT file as well, so we can use that for captioning. And then everything that was said in this particular instance is also going to be globally searchable across all of our different storages, wherever it may live, wherever its life cycle might be. So we'll wait a few seconds. It won't take too long for this to come back, but we'll go take a look at one other thing while we're waiting for that to finish. The other thing we can do is we have this concept of archival. And what archival is saying is, hey, I want to move this to a tier of storage that is for cold storage. And I have the option to delete it from all other production storages when that happens. So this is a great place to have MatrixStore as a back-end solution for cold storage as well versus production storage. It's a little bit of a different methodology here in the sense that we pull that data offline, and our expectation is that data is not immediately addressable. In the case of MatrixStore, it is, but let's say Nick gets ambitious and builds a tape tier into their cloud like Amazon's done. We would still have that level of support for offline data in a situation like that. So if I hit archive, that would go off. It would pull the high res offline and go to town. Not going to do that right now. You'll also notice that now we've got our transcription back. And if I click on any given word, it takes me right to that within the system. If I highlight a phrase, it will mark that into the out point within the system as well. So I can say, you know what, hey, let's grab, this sentence here, and I can say, can we edit this out of the cut ? And when I make a comment on that, you can see it mark that into the out point automatically for me just by highlighting things. So really easy. And now I can see all of the other comments that you guys have been making as you've been diving in here as well. So you can see there's a lot of collaboration capabilities that are available within Iconic. Now, this is not everything that Iconic can do, but this gives you a pretty high level overview of how we can dive into storage, and we can utilize a variety of different storages at a variety of different tiers in a global ecosystem and really easily manage that from a single place. So with that said, I will stop my share, toss it back over to Mark, and we can go to some Q&A.
Yes, please. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask us at this moment? Codec support. Does Iconic support OP1 atoms from Avid Media?
So currently, the data model behind the scenes does, but our scanner does not automatically decode OP atom, which means that if you just scanned an MXF media files folder with the built-in Iconic toolkit, you would end up with a bunch of video files with separate audio files that would all have generated proxies, but it wouldn't see it as a dedicated media clip. That said, if you're using something like a Telestream Vantage or orchestration layer that can decode and find those siblings beforehand and make API calls to us, we do support meta clipping at the API level. So you can have assets that are OP atom assets living and managed in Iconic, but our just double click install scan does not do that natively. Is there a panel for Premiere? Yes, so we have Adobe panels in Iconic for Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Audition currently. And early in the next year, we will be working on a workflow extension for Final Cut X as well. And that provides you not only direct access to the media inside the application, but specifically with Premiere, we have a pretty cool proxy workflow as well. We have a webinar on that on our webpage. If you just go to iconic.io and click on blogs, we did a good almost 2-hour webinar on that about this time last year, maybe a little bit before that, if you're interested in seeing a little bit more on the Adobe panel.
Okay, just a quick question that's come in via the private chat. Can you access the MD5 via the S3 in MatrixStore? Yes, you can. The S3 interface is compatible with all the MatrixStore metadata, so we can exchange it whether through your own coding or with any other product. So yeah, pretty useful to be able to get all the metadata and exchange it whenever we need to.
Here's an interesting question for you, Mark. Do you guys automatically MD5 larger files than your minimum chunk size? So if you do a multi-part write, do you actually get an MD5, or do you get to the MD5s of all of the chunks?
You get an MD5 of the entire asset at the end of it. So MatrixStore is always, every read and write does an MD5. Yes, you can access that and get the entire file's MD5 back when you need it.
That's a very nice feature, because Amazon does not do that, and Google does not do that, and Microsoft do not do that currently.
Yes, we've seen that in the past as well. So it's good to know that. Seems that OM and Iconic offer some. What's the big difference to? Oh, similar features. Yes, we do offer some similar features, but obviously the Vision application only looks at MatrixStore and only your objects in the MatrixStore. So although there's some use there in the, I guess, DR or etc., I don't think we'd ever say we were ever going to be in competition with Iconic, because they obviously have a lot more feature-rich set that a full-blown MAM has. And we do try to say that Vision isn't a MAM, although it has a lot of MAM-like functions.
Yeah, I think at the end, the big differentiator is, like Mark said, Vision runs on the object matrix stack, but Iconic can look at object matrix and any other storage you may choose anywhere else in the world and mix and match as to your heart's content. So as you're building out a ecosystem, MatrixStore may be the absolute best fit for some of that workflow, but maybe some other storage may be more beneficial for other parts of that workflow, and Iconic can touch all of those.
Great. How does we're on to Keith, I think. How does the metadata come across into Iconic? Where is it displayed in Iconic?
Yep, so I reshared my screen here so we can see this. There's just a simple metadata panel And now I have the ability to do what we call views in Iconic, which allow us to build different subsets of metadata fields. And I can even do categories. So if you can see in my environment, I have a lot of different views here. So I can segment them into smaller view sets if I want. Editing the metadata is as simple as if I have rights to do so, because Iconic also has very granular access rights and roles to all the things that can be done. I can just go in here and say object matrix vision demo video and rating. Hey, you know what, guys, you get 5 stars, and category is demo, and language is English, and keywords are OMS and object storage, and so on and so forth. So tagging metadata inside of Iconic's relatively easy. Now that that's all tagged, if I go up here and search for matrix, we can see all that stuff came back because it came from it. But if I search for vision, which I think I tagged there, you know, that guy came back as well. So tagging with metadata is relatively simple. We can also bulk tag. So let's say all of this stuff I wanted to update the metadata on it, and I wanted to add the keyword webinar to. I can do that. And now all of those assets that came back from that search, I've now added more tags to. So it's a very robust and rich way of being able to tag metadata.
Yeah.
Let's see. Steve asks, do you have any recommendations for stream recording SRT or baseband SDI to cloud? From our experience, there you're going to have to use, if you're going to do SDI from on-prem, you're going to have to do some sort of stream conversion to get it into an SRT format or something along those lines, or you'll have to finish that recording locally and then replicate it to the cloud. We have customers doing both. We did a webinar with Vmond not too long ago, and they have a product called IO that does do SRT streaming, and they have a native plugin inside of their system that talks to Iconic, so you can write data to it. It automatically supports all the real-time tagging you might be doing, and it lets you do edit while ingest in a web UI. So if you're interested in that, either hit me up directly or hit up them on their website. I can introduce you. But that's something we've seen for doing live feed ingest for several of our customers in the cloud because of their really slick integration with us. Much experience of importing from other PAMs and MAMs. Do you generate proxies, or could those be imported? So maybe. It's a very nebulous question. From our side of things, 100% of Iconic is available via API, which means importing data, as long as there's a logical model to it, is possible. And if there is a place to put it in Iconic when you're poking around the user interface, then we can store that data programmatically, and it can be automated to migrate that data. The bigger question is the source tool. Does it support a friendly way of exporting that data? On the proxies, as long as the proxies are H.264 and compliant with our player, which basically means they're not too big, as long as they're in a true MP4 container and not in a QuickTime MOV container, we can reutilize proxies. What we can't do is guarantee that somebody else's proxies were frame accurate. Any proxy we create are going to be frame accurate, but if somebody else created them, we can't guarantee that. That doesn't mean it can't be used and imported into Iconic as well. So that's why I say it's maybe, probably, but it really depends on where that source data is coming from and what toolkits they have available. From the Iconic side, absolutely everything can be imported.
Cool. I mean, the next one, can metadata and object matrix also be found in Iconic? The simple answer is yes. Our S3 interface allows Iconic to read any of the metadata key pairs, and they can then present them in the Iconic interface as needed. So yes, is the simple answer. Cool. I think we're coming towards the end of the questions. I'll just say thank you everyone for joining us here today. It's been good to have the questions and answers, and hopefully we've all shown you that Iconic and MatrixStore are two very seamless products that work together very nicely and could benefit yourself and your workflows. Thank you to Mike for joining us, and thank you for giving us the demonstration.
Thank you guys for having us on and helping share the message.
No worries. Any questions, please do email us or get in touch and we will be happy to chat anytime. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.